Okay, I like to mix my ingredients, my dry ingredients together first. This recipe calls for 4.5 cups of sugar. So we'll get 4.5 cups of sugar in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and because none of them were full, 5. So that's 4.5 cups of sugar. Doesn't have to be perfect, as I'm sure you've noticed recipes online. There's a wide range of ingredients. It's like anything should work according to them. Then 6 tablespoons of pectin. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 6 tablespoons of pectin. And most recipes call for lemon or lime. I think sometimes because prickly pear is very low in acid, it needs acid, but you put enough lemon or lime in there, it gives it a lemon or lime taste. So I use 3/4 of a teaspoon of citric acid instead. That way you don't get any flavor added to it, just the acid which is needed in order to make the jelly gel. And then just like you would with any other recipe, you mix the dry ingredients together, and then when it comes time we'll add those to the jelly all at once. Have that ready to go, pre-measured, so we don't have to try to measure everything out while we're in the middle of the craziness of boiling the jelly mixture. So in addition to the 4.5 cups of sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of acid, and 6 tablespoons of pectin, regular pectin, we'll also be using 3 cups of prickly pear juice, and also probably just a little dab, a 1/4 teaspoon of butter. Okay, we have the jelly, or the juice at this point, just starting to boil. So we take our pre-mixed dry ingredients here, and we'll start adding this in. You don't want to just dump it in. You never dump something in. So we'll keep stirring it. Dissolve it in as we get it in there. Okay. Now we'll bring that back to a rolling boil. And when we get to a rolling boil, we'll boil it for, I'm going to go 2.5 minutes this time. A lot of the recipes that I'd read said to boil it for 1 minute. And whenever I boiled this for 1 minute, I ended up with syrup instead of jelly. So I found that 2.5 minutes gives you a much better product, more of a jelly. I've got my jars boiling there, my utensils, sanitize those. I've got my lids over here at a lower level so that I can keep them, you don't want to boil them harshly, just kind of simmer them a little bit there, because if you boil them too hard, get them too hot, it can tear up the seal, and then you'll have jelly that doesn't seal. So I just want to get that kind of hot there. Because theoretically when you do your canning, after you put the jelly into the jars and you put it back in there and heat it up for 5 to 10 minutes, that'll take care of the lids. But I like to preheat mine. So here in a second, I'm getting some bubbles there, so it's right around 212. I'm going to turn that water off. So I've got my timer preset up here on my microwave for 2.5 minutes. So once we get to a full rolling boil here, I'll start that timer, and then we will be ready to go. Got a good medium heat under my pan. So probably about 5 to 10 minutes here until we're done with the stirring. Let my funnel over, sterilize the other side of it. Also like to get my spoon in there a little bit. My ladle that I'm going to be using on the jelly. Any creepy crawlies that might be on it, hiding microscopic level. Get rid of those guys too. Just anything that you can sanitize, you want to sanitize. So once again, in here we have 3 cups of prickly pear juice or Tunas, 4.5 cups of regular sugar, 6 tablespoons of pectin, and 3/4 teaspoon of citric acid, and just a 1/8 or 1/4 of a teaspoon of butter to try to reduce the foaming when we get back to this rolling boil. Yes, we're starting to get a little boil here. I would not call that a rolling boil yet, it's coming fast. I'd call that a rolling boil. So we're going to start the timer. Turn my heat down just a little bit. Start my stirring a little bit harder since it's a rolling boil. And we'll go for 2.5 minutes. I may cut this 5 or 10 seconds short just due to I'm using a really heavy cast iron enamel plated pan, so when I turn off the burner it's still going to have some heat in it for a moment. So I may cut it off here at about 10 seconds. Okay, so you can see the burner's off, but it's still a rolling boil. Now I have preheated a pre-chilled a metal spoon that I'm going to use to test this. Let me grab that real quick. I'm going to grab a little juice out of here. I probably shouldn't have had the ice cube over that. That would have been embarrassing if the ice cube had ended up in my jelly. So the chill on this speeds up the process. You'll see that solidified. So we're in good shape there. We're going to have jelly that's going to gel. Rid of this ice cube. Okay, give it another stir. And we are ready to start putting the jelly in. Rotate this 90 degrees. Get the handle out of the way. Bring this board over here. Want to get as close as I can. And then I will get my ladle over here, steaming hot. Get my funnel. And I do not have a jar lifter. I highly recommend you get one. So I have to use tongs, which is dangerous with this glass that's super hot, and the tongs don't do a great job. Luckily these have rubber on the end, so they're able to some extent grab hold of this jar, but it's still a very dangerous way to do it. Okay, and because I put the butter, there's basically no foam there, so I'm just going to start putting this into the jars. And because I've got them so close, my funnel comes over the edge of my bucket, my pan here. And your recipe will always tell you to leave air at the top. If there's not air in the top, then it will not decompress, so you won't get a vacuum, and if you don't get the vacuum, then you will not get a seal on your jars. So it's very important to have at least a 1/4 inch of air to create that vacuum to pull the seal down good on your jar lids. And the way this funnel is designed is if you fill it right to the bottom of the funnel, you get a really good answer there. Okay, so I've got 2 here that are filled. So I'm going to grab my lids out of this really hot water. There we go. shake as much water as I can off. Put that there. Go ahead and grab a third jar. Gotta get the water out of it. Move my funnel over to that jar. Another lid. Shake the water off. Okay. Now, use my reach. The bands don't have to be sterilized because they do not touch the product. Woo, hot jars. Hot jars. Just do those kind of finger tight. And we are ready for the next couple of jars here. I set my tongs down on the table, so I'm going to wash them off just a hair there. Re-sanitize them. I try to always set the tongs back in hot water, but sometimes I miss that step. Okay, so now these two are ready to fill. A little bit more. Also going to take just a step here. Okay, I had to put a couple more jars in the hot water in case I need them. This recipe, if I remember right, it usually gives me about 7, maybe 8 jars, 7.5, somewhere in that range. Okay, so we got 2 more full. So I'm going to get another one of my sterile jars. And move my funnel over to that. So then I got 2 here that need to be lidded. Move that way. Always a challenge picking up these lids with tongs. Especially since they like to get together and hang out in groups. Okay, 2 more bands. There it is. Okay, those 2 out of the way. Get those boiling. Bring this guy over. It's still hot. Go ahead and get my 6th jar out. Water out of him. Get him ready. Ooh, almost shut those down where I try not to. At this point, I'm going to start spinning this a little bit. Try to get them running a little bit low. Move over to my next jar for 6. I always try to keep the edge of the funnel over my pan so I don't have a mess to clean up later. Oops. Slopped a little bit there, going too fast. Okay, that's 6 good full jars there. Looks like we might need a 7th. Alrighty. Okay. Get some more water out of that. That jar, I'm relatively positive at this point we're not going to need, so I'll take it out. Okay, then I need my 2 lids. Shake it up in there, try to get one by itself. There we go. You always want to be very careful. If you knock one of these over, it's boiling hot syrup stuck to you. So you want to do everything to avoid having that happen. You will probably be marked for life if that lands on your body. Takes all the fun out of making jelly. Okay. Alright, and the last of it. Don't know what's going to be the best way to do this, whether I'm going to get it with a ladle or if I just need to drain it straight out. Probably be ahead to go ahead and just drain it straight out, looks like. There's just not that much left. And about a half jar, so 6.5 jars, or you can make 6 and plan on just putting the last half in just about anything, have the same day or the next day. So I will probably go ahead and put a lid on this one anyway, though, I think. Okay. And grab that lid. Okay. Done with those. Or at least the sterile part. All our food is now in the jars. Okay. Now, I'm going to use that one first, so it doesn't need to be canned. The other ones, however, all need to go in to my boiling hot water here, which is probably a little bit too much water at the moment, because I had it at a level to cover the jars. Now I'm going to put full jars in there. So I'm going to take that water out, put it back over here. I also don't like to have the bottom, you're supposed to have a wire rack in here, but just like I don't have a jar lifter, I don't have a wire rack. So I put that in there, and once that starts boiling, I'll put these jars in. And you put the jars back into boiling water to can them, and theoretically the air that's in here could be what I say, could have bacteria or something in it. I'm going to check all these lids just a little bit. Water has no real desire to go inside these at this time, so it's not a major concern that you're going to get water in here, but you do want to check and make sure that you didn't totally miss one. We're going to put these in here. See, this is where you absolutely positively should have a jar lifter, and I don't. This is just a silly way to be doing it. Okay. So I've got all those in there. My water's boiling, so I'm going to allow those Adjust the camera a little bit. I apologize for this, but I'm going to let that boil for about 5 minutes. And if there was any bacteria in the air that was in there on the lid, theoretically this will take care of that. Once the 5 minutes is up, turn the heat off to the boiling water. They say let it cool for about 5 minutes, and then you'll take these out, set them aside on a cooling rack, and you'll wait for them to cool down and set up. All your jars should pull the lid down in because of the vacuum that's on them. If they don't, that's an indication your seal didn't happen, and you should go ahead and refrigerate those jars and use them first.